our third session on themes of folklore and environment.
Let's move on to the countries now.
Hello
Country team.
everyone, Namaste.
Hi.
I'm calling from Vietnam.
We have writer, illustrator, editor.
Hey, nice to see you all. Most of
Such a pleasure to attend this global workshop for the first time.
It's fabulous to see what the teams have achieved in mere 6 months.
Writers and the illustrator with the editor's help is gonna be all amazing books.
Gives us common stories to share, and it, I think, strengthens the national identity.
The books that are coming out of this workshop are really, really nice, and I cannot wait for everybody to see them. The goal of this project was to explore folkloric storytelling narratives and visual concepts by using, elements of folk art as motifs and imagery.
They merge with the current climate change issue.
We have discussed some really crucial environment and climate issues. It is essential for kids to read such stories because they happen to be the change makers of the future.
So in a way, it's like taking something from the past and telling it to the children today so they'll be better prepared for their future.
Folklore encompasses legends and tales of a community.
That's how we learn about the world around us. That's how we learn about our past.
Talking animals and magic and mystical creatures.
Children can develop their imagination by reading it, and through the act of reading, they discover the love for stories.
I can identify myself, know local wisdom, and know how people think in dealing with them.
Que es una forma de darle a entender a las nuevas generaciones la importancia del medio ambiente.
All the stories talk about the same connection between native peoples and the protection of the environment. This message is really a wisdom that should be transferred to children all over the world.
Folklore is a traditional knowledge, it's a form of traditional knowledge that has been passed from generation to generation, and it's not just through storytelling, it's through songs, it's through poems, it's through textiles, it's through crafts, it's through art. So I think folklore is an essential part of any country's heritage.
The climate crisis is problem that children today face, and it's something that we didn't have to worry about when we were their age. A lot of folk tales talk about natural phenomena, try to explain natural phenomena, so it was quite natural to use these folk tales to explain something that children today are facing, which is climate change. So in a way, it's like taking something from the past and telling it to the children today so they'll be better prepared for their future.
And then it turns to be a good package when the folklore being merged with the current climate change issue, and then to be packed into the culture in the form of story. To me, that's simple but then deep for children's picture book.
I think this was a great idea for a project, because what native peoples all over the world have in common is actually that they live with their environment and how they are the ones who protect the environment the most.
Vi que había una cierta similitud con las historias de Honduras. Entonces eso me dio a entender que al final tenemos valoraciones parecidas a pesar de vivir en lugares distintos del mundo.
I can take a closer look how folklore exists in cultures around the world. I also got a lot of valuable knowledge from the mentors.
The detailed and comprehensive research are very important in developing a folklore story base, especially about the environment, so that children can easily understand the story idea and at the same time they get the values or motive of the folklore.
We have learned how to select different characters from different folklores and put them together into one new story which represents the environment as the theme of the workshop. And environment become the most concerned topic for the world right now.
When children learn about diverse cultural traditions, they not only broaden their view of the world, they may also develop a great appreciation of their own family's heritage.
These kind of stories are linked direct to the children's life, their culture, their traditions, and their environment. They all directly linked together.
For this workshop, we have 11 countries that participate to develop this picture book.
There's Bangladesh, Cambodia, Honduras, India, Indonesia, Laos, Nepal, Philippines, Sri Lanka, Vietnam, and Tanzania. And there are 5 mentors, myself and Al Santos from the Philippines, Tanya from India, Ebby from Indonesia, and Janet from the US.
The Folklore and Environment Change workshop was roughly divided into 12 big sessions. They had a timeline of about 6 months. These 12 big sessions were attended by all the countries, all the participating countries from across the globe.
I find the book making process in this workshop is very interesting because everybody in the team are working together from the beginning until the end.
The writer, the illustrator, the editor, all of them, they join in together. Usually what happens is the writer writes the book, then it goes to the illustrator illustrates, and then it goes to the editor. But in this workshop, we have tried to do something different. We had the involvement of illustrator and editor since the very beginning. And I think it really helped us to achieve the closest possible goal that we could have.
These creators get the chance to see how the others work and engage in giving feedback or hearing feedback from others and really have that new way of interacting between creators and that new base line of communication that we didn't really have before.
There was a lot of attention that went into creating characters, and then there was a lot of effort that went into creating plots. I think I have 2 books that I can think of right now. The first one is The Flower Demon, titled by India. The demons are usually, perceived as someone who we should be scared of. Demons are the punishers in folklores. But here, we have this demon who's a gentle giant and who cares about the environment and who blooms when the environment is taken care of. I think it was really interesting how Team India has portrayed that aspect of a demon, and I think it will give the readers that twist to their imagination. The second one is The Music from the Lagoon, where there's a sweet little girl, and one day because of a horrific calamity, she disappears. So it was really interesting to see how the illustrator, he came up with a Sri Lankan version of a mermaid. It is obviously diverse and distinct from the rest of the version of mermaid. It will give the kids of Sri Lanka something to relate with.
A good storyboard is something that you could read and understand even without words. Laos is one of the countries that I mentored, and they have a very good example of a storyboard because you could easily follow the story even without reading the text. You could also see the humor in the characters by how Nibong, the illustrator, drew the characters on each scene. And it became easy for us also to imagine what the final product would be, because of the storyboard. Of all the narratives in this whole workshop, the Philippines had the most complicated story. It has an Encantada, which is a mountain goddess, Limocon, which is a mythical bird. There are hunters, invaders, there's this giant fight scene. So it's a very complex story. When we reviewed the storyboard, this is also where we could see where it needs text or where the illustrations are enough. It was really a tool in helping us determine how to best tell the story.
So in my mentoring group, there is a group who has to rewrite the story. That's from Cambodia because the beginning of the story is too long. So the pacing is too slow for the beginning. And then after we discussed what they happy with the suggestion that mentors gave. So they cut the beginning of the story and rewrite again. So the story is like more fluid, and then the pacing is getting very nice from the beginning and then to the action of their story. Even though it is maybe very hard to do, but the result is become very good.
When I talk about color, I think I was really impressed to see the team from Vietnam, the illustrator, the writer and the editor from Vietnam come up with such a beautiful book about the story about rice. The book takes place in both the real world and the fantasy world, so it was really nice to see how the colors, they give you a feel of the real world and how they used colors to give you that feel of a fantasy land. So when it comes to color, Vietnam's work, I'm really impressed by it.
For Indonesian team, illustrator from Indonesian team, Singgi, has already significant color of his own. I saw it in his previous published book and then also in his art projects. So, but for this book, I think he understood that he has to cherish the Mentawai culture background. So he added the Mentawai colorings for the story. Mentawai is represented nicely with the color he chose for all elements in the book, including the emotion of the story that's shown by the colors.
Normally, one of the reasons why we focus so much on the covers is because that is the first thing that a child sees when they go into the library. Which is why it's so important because if our covers are not engaging or they're not fun or they're just not really piquing the interest of a kid, then they'll never get to see what the story is actually about. For example, for the Honduras team, Wendy created 3 beautiful ideas that really made emphasis on the environment of our story, which is one of the biggest parts of the story. And I know that she really focused a lot of how the characters interacted with their environment, which is one of the main themes of the story. And you can see as you go through her covers, one is more engaging, more dynamic than the other, and you can actually see how the composition makes your eye move from one side to the other page, and it's really engaging.
The workshop is almost finished and we're going to see the result of every book, the 12 books. Before we can hold it in our hands, the books, I already can feel that it's gonna be amazing, wonderful books that the workshop produced. The illustrator and writers with the editor's help, it's gonna be all amazing books.
की दोस्त हूँ और सदियों से यहीं रहती हूँ। बोलने वाली चिड़िया, फूलों का राक्षस, कहीं ये कोई सपना तो नहीं? सपना नहीं, बहुत पुरानी कहानी है। चिड़िया धीमे से बोली। चोंचगंज में एक प्यारा सा फूलों का राक्षस रहता था, जिसका प्रकृति से एक खास रिश्ता था।
उसकी मुस्कुराहट से धरती पर रंग बिरंगे फूल खिल उठते। वह जहाँ कदम रखता वहाँ गीली मिट्टी की खुशबू बिखर जाती। मुझे कहानी बहुत पसंद आई क्योंकि फूलों का राक्षस कहानी सुनाता और गाने गाता।
गाउँलेले रुख काट्दै खेतीका लागि जमिन बढाउन थाले। विपुल र परिधि पनि दुःखी भए। ठुली चुनकिरले भनी, आह कस्तो गर्मी, पानी नपरेको पनि धेरै भयो। रुख काटेपछि शीतल ठाउँ पनि छैन। बालबच्चा हुर्काउन पनि नसकिने भयो।
जुनकिरीहरूले तलाउका भ्यागुचासँग भने, हेर्नुस् न, पानी नपरेर साह्रै गाह्रो भयो। तपाईहरूले कराएर मिठो गीत गाएपछि इन्द्र भगवानले पानी parlan ki.
Wakati ulifika ndeki kujifunza kupaa angani. Siku moja mama yake akampeleka kufanya mazoezi ya kupaa angani. Baada ya mazoezi ya kupaa angani walirudi nyumbani. Waliporudi walikuta nyuki wamehamia katika tundu lao.
Sisi nyuki hatunaweza kutengeneza nyumba kama nyinyi ndege. Tunaomba tuendelee kuishi hapa kwa sababu wewe ndege unaweza kutengeneza tundu lingine. Mama ndege alikubali. Mama, kwa nini umewaruhusu hao nyuki kukaa kwenye nyumba yetu? Ndege aliuliza. Ni kwa sababu napenda zaidi nyuki kuliko wadudu wengine. Mama ndege alijibu.
Oh, ទឹកជ្រៅបែបនេះតើយើងចុះទៅយ៉ាងម៉េចមិនអីទេខ្ញុំនាំឯងទៅភ្លុំស្រាប់តែស្រមោលខ្មៅយ៉ាងធំមួយតម្រង់មកពួកគេ
ហាវីវោហើយយើងឆាប់កិច្ចវឹបប៉ាំងដុំថ្មធំចេញប៉ើងចេញពីមាត់អន្លង់ឯត្រីយក្សក៏សន្លប់ស្ដុកស្ដឹងខ្ញុំចូលចិត្តអានរឿងអ្នកសង្គ្រោះភូមិពីព្រោះគាត់សុវណ្ណកុមារគាត់ក្លាហានគាត់ហ៊ានទៅយកគ្រាប់ឈើជួយអ្នកភូមិរបស់គាត់ឲ្យកិច្ចផុតពីគ្រោះមហន្តរាយនិងគ្រោះរាំងស្ងួតនានា
கண்டல் தாவரங்களும் மருத மரங்களும் உயர்ந்து வளர்ந்தன மக்கள் தங்களுடைய வாழ்வாதாரத்திற்காக மீண்டும் இந்த ஏரியை நாடி வந்தார்கள்
அன்று முழு நிலவு நாள் ஏரியின் ஊடே குளிர்ந்த காற்று மிதந்து சென்றது மீனவர்களுக்கு மிகவும் பரிச்சயமாய் மீனவர்கள் தன்னை நெருங்கி வருவதைக் கண்ட அந்த உருவம் ஏரிக்குள் இறங்கி மாயமாய் மறைந்து போனது இச்செய்தி ஊரெங்கும் தீயாய் பரவியது
Yaringni sintió su morral más liviano y se sorprendió. ¿Dónde están mis zapotes?, pensó. Edgardo, ya no están. Desaparecieron.
Niños, soy el dueño de las plantas. Yaringni, Edgardo, escuchen y comprendan mi mensaje. Es muy importante. Los tahuacas somos los guardianes del bosque. Todo en la naturaleza tiene un equilibrio. Piensen bien lo que están haciendo.
বিজয়ের পর বনবিবির কাছে এসে তাকে ঘিরে ধরল সবাই। কি ভয়ানক যুদ্ধ রে বাবা! বনের জীবজন্তুরা উল্লসিত। বিজয়ের আনন্দে সবার গাল বেয়ে আনন্দে অশ্রু গড়িয়ে পড়ছে। বনবিবিকে সবাই ধন্যবাদ ও অভিনন্দন জানাচ্ছে।
এই নাটক যারা অভিনয় করেছে তারা সবাই আবার মঞ্চে এসে দাঁড়ালো, মাথা ঝুঁকিয়ে দর্শকদের সম্মান জানালো। চলো সুন্দরবন সহ পৃথিবীর সকল আবাস ও বনরাজি রক্ষায় আমরা সবাই অঙ্গীকারবদ্ধ হই।
Diwa, diwa. Diwata ng ilog at mga puno sa hagubatan. Salamat sa araw-araw na kasaganaan, sa araw-araw na salo-salo ng taong bayan. Sumusunod sa batas ng bundok. May susunod sa tukso ng kasakiman. may papatay, at may bubuhay.
Upang maging ibon na magtatanggol sa kaharian. Diwa, diwa, diwata ng kabundukan. Ang unang engkantada ng aming buhay. Nakakakita pa ba kayo ng mga diwata sa ating kabundukan?
Mình cúi xuống đất nhìn, cậu vô cùng ngạc nhiên khi thấy những hạt cơm đang nói chuyện. Một hạt cơm chống lạnh nói: chúng mình bị ghét rồi, đi thôi. Đợi tớ với. Nói đoạn, các hạt cơm biến mất sau bờ rộng. Nhưng mình vẫn tìm cách đuổi theo.
Hạt cơm cậu đuổi theo không còn nhỏ bé nữa. Nhưng kia, đấy là cách chúng tớ được sinh ra đó. Đã từ lâu lắm rồi, ông trời ban cho nhân gian một hạt ngọc trời, hạt to, đủ cho cả làng ăn. Chỉ cần con người chăm chỉ, giữ gìn vệ sinh sạch sẽ thì chắc chắn luôn được no đủ.
ผีน้อยจึงเอาขนนกมาถูตีนของหลาวแล้วว่าเจ้าจะเสาตัดต้นไม้และใส่แหวดักสัตว์บ่หากบ่เสาค่อยก็จะเอาขนนกถูตีนเจ้าบ่หยุดโอ้ยค่อยยอมแล้วแต่ค่อยจะหากินแนวใดหากบ่เฮ็ดแบบนี้
แล้วว่า
แต่ว่า
น้ำค่อยมา
น้ำผลมา
ทางนี้
อันนี้
ค่อยจะสอน
คอยจะสอน
วิธีให้เจ้า
วิธีให้เจ้า
ผีน้อย
ผีน้อย
ได้สอน
ได้สอน
วิธีปลูกพืช
วิธีปลูกพืช
หมุนเวียน
หมุนเวียน
และปลูกต้นไม้
และปลูกต้นไม้
ทดจบเป็นจังไดเรื่องนี้มวนบ่
มวน
ขอขอบใจ
ขอใจ
Kita perlu tanaman yang berbeda untuk masing-masing penyakit. Tanaman apa saja, Ayah? Tanaman itu adalah si ekor kuning untuk obat gatal, si kupu-kupu ungu untuk obat bengkak, dan si payung hijau untuk obat batuk.
Belum mulai perjalanannya. Aku akan segera pulang. Berayun cepat ke arah timur. Dengar suara riang dan riuh. Di balik pohon suci nan jauh, terbentang luas hutan yang subur. Aku menyukai buku ini karena gambar dan puisinya bagus. Kalau aku suka buku ini karena ceritanya bagus.
We got an opportunity to introduce different societies, different cultures, different fables, myths, as well as folktales. This is my first chance to work with internationally recognized writers and illustrators in an internationally organized workshop.
My favorite part of the workshop is the session. I learn a lot from the mentors and the other participants, and it is fun to listen to other beliefs and folklores too.
ផងដែរតកតងជាមួយនឹង mentor យើងឃើញថាវាពិតជាពិសេសមែនទែនសម្រាប់លើកនេះដោយសារពេលដែលយើងបានពិភាក្សាតកតងជាមួយនឹងតួអង្គហើយនឹងរឿងហើយនឹងការដំណើររឿងរបស់យើង
The process is really fascinating for me. I learned about how the narrative was made and how it can evolve so different from the early idea.
เราก็จะเห็นเวลาอ่านนิทานจะเห็นการโน้มนิดของคนในยุคสมัยนั้นการทำมาหากินแล้วก็เสื้อสีเสื้อเรื่องชาต่าง
It is a great workshop that brings writer and illustrator together in the beginning stage of the story development. This make them understand each other more and they can make the session faster, the story direction and character design.
As an illustrator, it was so nice to be able to comment on the story's content, making it easier for me to do the storyboard.
The mentors always had such good suggestions and such good feedback for the work, which always enhanced the book. It was overall a great experience.
Experience in this workshop was enjoyable because I learned about new ideas and processes, because it helps me to achieve my goals and build my confidence.
It was a good experience to work with writer and the editor to build the story.
Even spending some time looking at the other team's stories sparked new ideas in all of us. So a lot of our initial ideas changed by quite a bit by the time we reached the end, and we're very happy with the final product that we've achieved.
In the past, I had a very narrow knowledge of folklore, but from this workshop, I came to realize that my knowledge of folklore has broadened.
Very interesting stories, and children mostly like folklore because they use fantasies, they use many other interesting.
I think although we are different, but we're here together with the same goal in mind, and that is to make a good book for the children. So the process went well.
I got to learn so much about my culture that I didn't know, and the myths and legends of India. I got to work through the environmental aspect of it and combine that with the folklore. So this opportunity to create my own mythical, fictional character.
ខ្ញុំបាទសង្ឃឹមថាកុមារតូចនឹងពេញចិត្តជាមួយនឹងសៀវភៅប្រភេទនេះហើយពួកគេនឹងទទួលបាននៅ
Also, I am thankful to Room to Read and congratulate to all the participants of the Folklore and Environment workshop.